Hello, YouTube family. This is Lamont Jackson here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Usually I sing songs, but not today. So for the rest of the month, which I guess this is the 31st, but anyway, in September, I'm going to be talking with people who actually been diagnosed with cancer and just want to hear their stories because, as you know, I have a song coming out next month called Cancer, You're No Friend of Mine. And no one fights alone. I had family members that have passed away from cancer as well as beat cancer, and my friends have passed away and beat cancer as well. It's really close to my heart, so I thought I would do a song about it. And not only that, I want to interview people who actually had this horrible disease and see if we can try to knock this cancer out. So anyway, here's my friend Tasha Henderson. Hello. And this is my first guest, so I just want to hear about her story. What happened? How did she find out? Did she have any signs or symptoms? Did she have a physical and she found out that way, or what happened? So the floor is yours now. So Can you explain to me sort of what happened? Because I had no idea.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, it would have been July 2nd, 2018. Actually, I was having symptoms, and the crazy thing is I had been to the ER a couple times. I had been to my doctor, and they were all telling me I need to have my IUD replaced. And it was due for that. So I really thought I was fine. I just needed to do that. So I set up an appointment with the OB doctor, which was probably another couple of months before I actually got in there. And as soon as I got there, like, they took one look and immediately they were like, I'm pretty sure you have cancer. Like, they could see it, just visually see it. So from there, they did some labs, they did biopsies, and they called me within a couple of days and told me to go to Shawnee Mission, was where they referred me to. And when I got there, it was kind of a roller coaster because, you go through all those stages of denial and acceptance, and I was in a good place going in there, even though I went through the whole Google nightmare. And so by the time I got there, I was pretty confident with what was going on and that it was going to be fine. And at that point, they told me that it was confined to the cervix. And it was pretty straightforward, a little bit of chemo and radiation, and it'd be back to life as I knew it. So did all that initially, and I didn't lose any hair that first round, actually. And I mean, I was pretty tired. I would get tired pretty easily. I didn't have a lot of energy, but I never got really sick. So I mean, I did okay. And after that 6 weeks of treatment, I was ready to go back to work. I did go back to work for a little bit of time. And they did a follow-up scan 3 months later. And at the follow-up scan is when they saw that there was actually lymph node involvement in my pelvic area. Mm-hmm. So it was like reliving it all over again. Like, I really thought I was done, I was good. And then we got there and we're starting from square one. So we went and saw another specialist to get a second opinion, was pretty much told the same thing. Surgery wasn't an option because apparently after you've had radiation, if you have cancer in your body, they described it as it kind of melts down the tumors. Mm-hmm. So there's blood vessels and stuff. There's no way they can get it out at that point because it's not they can't cleanly cut it out of there. So surgery wasn't an option. So they said basically, we're going to try to do more chemo and radiation, but if it didn't respond the first time, they told me at that point that I was actually terminal. They said if it didn't go away with the first treatment, it probably won't, but at that point they're buying time. So then that was a whole nother emotional, like, figuring out what I needed to do, with kids and whatever, and did the next round of treatment, which was a really aggressive chemo. That one was bad. Compared to the first one, I think I could only have chemo at once every 3 weeks instead of weekly because it was so strong. So I got pretty sick with that, lost the hair, went through all of that stuff, and then went for the follow-up, and my only hope at that point was that it had shrank. Mm-hmm. So, because they had already told me that it wouldn't go away. And I go to the follow-up appointment, and I'm sitting there with fingers crossed that it shrank or it did some good. Otherwise, it was going to be clinical trials at that point, and they came back in and said that all the scans were clear. So that second batch of chemo did it. Yeah.
So how did you feel when you was first diagnosed with cancer? Did you think you would beat this, or did you think you were going to last for a few years? Or
I was pretty confident that I could beat this initially. You know, with that first diagnosis, like I went through all of those emotions, but for me, I didn't even tell my family for like 6 weeks.
Wow.
I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody. I kept it all in my head. Like I had to go through this whole thing where I had to process it. And once I figured out how I felt about it, then I shared with other people. But that second time when they told me it was still there and that I was terminal, like I don't even think I cried. Like I was so stunned. I think I just sat there and I was like, this can't be happening.
Right.
So I went through all of those emotions all over again, and I had actually made up my mind that from everything that I had read, again, Google Nightmare, 18 months, maybe 5 years. So if I've got 5 years, I'm not going to spend the 5 years being sick. Like I was like, I'm not doing it. Like I've got to I almost didn't even do the chemo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I did now, but at the time I was like, if the chemo's not going to make it go away, do I really want to be sick?
Right. Yes.
You know, or do I want to have more of quality time?
Yes.
And, you know, even the second round of chemo, it wasn't like I thought it would be. Like I wasn't throwing up and bedridden. It wasn't like that. I just had no energy. I never got really depressed but I couldn't because I also had the kids, you know, and I didn't want them to see me like that. So I think that helped, but I'm glad I did the chemo now.
Yeah, and so did you ever hear this before from your doctor saying don't Google things or YouTube things or anything like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was told that as well. I never had cancer, but whatever you have or you think you have, don't ever Google or do YouTube because it's your doctor will get on you about that. So let them tell you what's going on and stop watching social media to trying to diagnose yourself, which I'm sure some of you guys experience that out there. But no, I appreciate you coming here and talking to me about what happened to you and your experience, because I had no idea until I saw you doing something on live on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard because I've known you from, working with you and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that you're going through this. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because actually doing the live sales and stuff like that, I think it's so important. And I'm not saying that I have the answers to it or anything, but that gave me a purpose. That gave me a reason to get up, and by God, I wasn't not going to go on camera without some fake eyelashes on, and that'll do wonders for a girl's self-esteem there. So big old fake eyelashes, getting up, getting dressed, all of those things, and doing that, I really think it just gave me that purpose during that time.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal too.
So when you went through chemo and you ended up losing all of your hair, how did you feel at that particular
my
time?
mom is a hairstylist, so I called her when it started coming out in bigger chunks. And this is going to sound crazy. It's nothing like I've heard before, but the first time I went through all of that chemo, I was ready for it. Like I had already mentally prepared myself to lose my hair, and it didn't happen. So crazy enough, I was semi-disappointed, because I was like, man, I would have never had the guts to just be like, you know what, I want to shave my head.
Yeah.
I could have never done that. So I'd actually well, now I have a reason to have no hair. So I don't want to say I was looking forward to it, but I was prepared. It didn't happen. And then that second round of chemo, I was like, boom, my hair's falling out. Called my mom, I'm like, I'm ready for you to shave my head. And I think she was bawling. I was like, oh my God, this is it was so empowering.
Yes.
Yeah, actually that part was kind of exciting for me. And even the stages with it coming back, the little bits, I had fun with it until we got to this point. Now it's a little annoying, but.
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling me your story. And then once again, I want to let you know that nobody fights alone. We're all in this together. And that's what I want to bring out, is that you either have a family member who had cancer or friends that had cancer. In some way you have dealt with this horrible disease. So, but remember, no one fights alone. And that's what I want to say. And we're going to have more people telling their stories, and, just to keep it real and so you guys can see real faces and their real stories. So thank you so much again.
Thanks
for talking about what happened. And I'm glad you're cancer free.
Thank you.